I'd like to begin today's video with asking a question. Does every game have to have multiplayer? I mean, really. You can look at the recent game, Binary Domain, and the campaign, from what I've heard, lends itself in a good enough sense that it doesn't need to have multiplayer. Yet, the game still has multiplayer mode in it, and I'm like, why? I don't need more multiplayer. I have enough games with multiplayer on it that I don't need another one. And that sort of bugs me. Is why do these features, specifically the multiplayer feature, have to be integrated into like every game that comes out these days? I mean, you wouldn't want to play a game like just Half-Life, a Gordon Freeman sort of like Half-Life. That wouldn't be fun as a deathmatch setting, from what I've seen, what I've played. That wouldn't be very fun. You know, games like Unreal or Doom or Quake, those have translated very well into multiplayer because of the weapons, because of the game speed, but some games just don't. And oftentimes multiplayer gets thrown in at the last second. You can look at BioShock's multiplayer, which was sort of like, kind of like Call of Duty-esque, and look at it. It just wasn't that good. I would have preferred they had spent the time they had used making that content on just making the campaign better. Because it was a good campaign, don't get me wrong. Maybe make it a bit longer, or I don't know, maybe add some more variety to the enemy types, because like every single enemy was the exact same skin. So I was like, I was questioning that the whole time. And, there are a lot of games that have had this sort of slapped on multiplayer, and yet it's turned out pretty good for the series. Gears of War. I bet you didn't know this, but Gears of War was not supposed to have multiplayer on it. It was sort of, trickled in there. And, you can tell it because there aren't any servers. There were not any servers for the first Gears of War. So, that sort of got some flack. But that sort of became the standout mode for the game. And the cooperative nature of the campaign ended up leading into the Horde mode creation, which spawned every single Horde mode style game. There's a reason the term Horde mode exists. And you can thank Epic's Gears of War 2 for that. So, at what point does a game need to have multiplayer? Is it because the campaign isn't long enough? Is it because otherwise it wouldn't be, necessary to play again or continue playing? I could cite Azura's Wrath. That game seems to be, like a 6-7 hour game. And then it's, what's next? What do you do next? Do you play it again? Because certainly, a visually appealing game, that's totally fine, but a lot of people these days, they need to get their bang for their buck. And if your game doesn't do that, that doesn't lend well to people having repeat business, which I guess is why people will throw in multiplayer modes. But I don't want competitive multiplayer. I don't want the Call of Duty knockoffs, but just set in the climate of your game. I want cooperative modes. I want the Spec Ops survival missions they added with Call of Duty. I want the Horde modes. I prefer those in terms of multiplayer, because it's something that isn't determined on how good are you at the game. Certainly, it helps if you're good at the game. But as long as you can get with friends and do it, that's good multiplayer. Not every game needs this patched on multiplayer that they have to add a couple maps to keep people playing again. Granted, a lot of times these modes are fun because they inspire sort of the feeling of that game, but I don't need it on every game. I don't. There are some games that have built themselves in multiplayer. Minecraft. A lot of where the fun in that game is, from what I've had, is with playing with other people on a server. I mean, and then some games are 100% multiplayer. Later Quakes did that. And you can look at a game like Unreal Tournament, which technically had a single player campaign, but because of how effective the bots are, and because every single map and every single game type was directly from multiplayer, it felt no different, except the fact that it was bots, not people. So you always have to ask yourself a question when you're designing a game: do we need to have multiplayer, or should we just not develop multiplayer and focus on that single player campaign? Do we make the other side of the campaign? Do we make another character? Sometimes you just need to extend single player, not throw on more multiplayer stuff. See you all tomorrow, everybody. Bye bye.